In section 10.2, we're going to talk about representing three-dimensional figures. Now, there are many ways to represent a three-dimensional object. An orthographic drawing shows 6 different views of an object: top, bottom, front, back, left, and right. And you've done problems like these before. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is an orthographic drawing. We take one solid and we represent it by a top, back, right, bottom, front, and left view. So here's our first example. Example 1. Draw all 6 orthographic views of the given object. Assume there are no hidden cubes. So if we look at it from the top, here's our picture. It's going to look like this. Now notice that we have each of these represented as a cube. Now, if we look at it this way, notice that we've made this a solid bar. All 3 of these blocks are solid cubes. The bottom, though, however, it's a lighter, I don't know if you can see it on the computer, but it's a lighter, I'll mark it in red. This piece right here and this piece right there are lighter. And the reason is that on the bottom, it's all flat. Like these 3 cubes on the bottom are all at the same level. These are all different cubes at 3 different levels. So the top of the red, the top of the green, and the top of the purple. None of them are on the same level. So therefore, the darkness is the same on all of them. You'll notice in the front, the entire outline is obviously in a darker black. But you'll notice the entire front is all the same level, like it's all flat. So therefore, these are all lighter shade. The back, the left, and the right. So here would be all 6 orthographic views of a given object. Now another way to show a drawing is an isometric drawing. This is a way to show 3 sides of a figure from a corner. So we're looking at it from a corner view. You can use isometric dot paper. I'll have some of it copied for class so you can use it to make an isometric drawing. This paper has diagonal rows of dots that are equally spaced in a repeating triangular pattern. Now this is going to be a lot harder than it looks. I've had students actually have a lot of problems drawing something like this. So we're going to take some time in class tomorrow to go over how to draw this as well. But on a computer, example 2, we want to know an isometric view of the given objects. Assume there are no hidden cubes. So here's our picture. And we start by either drawing the left, the top, or the right is where I would start. I always start with the top. I think it's easier. So I see that there's a cube here. So you'd start by making a box. And then it's 3 high. So then you go down 3. And then you just start filling in the blanks of like 2 boxes in the front right here, the yellow and the purple, and then the green boxes right here on the right. So this right here is called an isometric view. In a perspective drawing, non-vertical parallel lines are drawn so that they meet at a point called a vanishing point. Vanishing points are located on a horizontal line called the horizon. So you'll notice here's the horizon. Here's another horizon. If we have a 1-point perspective, you're going to have 1 point with lines that connect the vertices. So a 1-point perspective drawing contains 1 vanishing point. A 2-point perspective, notice from the point we connect all of the vertices. So in example 3, I want you to draw a cube in a 1-point perspective. Step 1. Step 1, you're going to draw a horizontal line and a cube. So here we go. Step 1. We're drawing a horizontal line to represent the horizon. Mark any point on that line as a vanishing point of the horizon. Then you just draw a square. So anywhere below the horizon, draw a square, and whatever you draw, though, is going to be represented or going to represent the front part of your cube. So step 2. Step 2 is from each corner, you're going to lightly draw dashed segments to the vanishing point. So you'll see in here in red, there are 4 dashed lines connecting all of the corners, vertices, to that vanishing point. Step 3. Step 3 is you're going to now draw a lightly smaller square. I'll do here. Lightly draw, just so you know you're doing it right, a smaller square with vertices on the dashed segments a little farther back. That's the back of the cube. And then the last step is going to be, you can erase everything, all the dotted lines if you would like, that you drew to represent your vanishing lines. You can draw the edges of the cube in that connect the front and the back of your cube. You can erase any segments that are not part of the cube. In part B, we're going to draw a rectangular prism in 2-point perspective. Step 1, draw a horizontal line and 2 points that represent the horizon. Then you're going to draw a vertical segment. Now, here's why it calls 2 points. If it was a 1 point, you draw a rectangle first. But 2 points means that you're only looking at this edge, and it's going to be at 2 different vanishing points. So you're going to draw a segment between the vanishing points. This is the front edge of the prism. Step 2. From each endpoint, lightly draw dashed segments from each end of the segment that you drew. And then somewhere in there, we're going to draw these other segments. These segments represent other vertical edges of the prism. The third step is going to be lightly drawing dashed segments. This is going to get a little confusing. Lightly draw dashed segments from each vanishing point to the vertical segments to the vanishing point. So you'll notice, like, if I look at the blue here, here's the vanishing point. I drew it from here to here. Well, we actually already did that, but you'll see that these blue represent what we already drew, and then the red connect the other vertices. So we draw all the red in. So this one goes to this segment, this one goes to this segment. Then from there, the last step is going to be drawing in the edges of the prism. So we're going to draw in the edges of the prism, and then you can erase any lines that are not part of the prism. And I leave the dotted lines, and you'll notice the dotted lines that you drew were the actual lines that you started drawing. You've actually already drew your segments in. We just made them darker, and then we erased all of the rest of the dotted lines. In example 4, determine whether each drawing represents the given object. Assume there are no hidden cubes. So does this represent this object? The answer is yes. It's actually as a 1-point perspective. What about B? B would be no, and actually this is showing a 2-point perspective, but it is not this shape here. C. C would not be a correct isometric drawing. And D, we check each of these. So the top, yep, that would work. The left side would work, and the rest of them would work. So yes, this is an orthographic view of our object. And your vocab words would be orthographic drawing, isometric drawing, perspective drawing, vanishing point, and horizon.